Welcome to our Devil's Digest Spring Snapshot. I'm Nick Borgia, joined alongside our publisher, Howard Urbino, and we're just past that halfway point of the spring practice for Arizona State football. Day 9 was today, and we figured it'd be time to get up here and analyze what we've seen so far at spring ball. So, Howard, let's start with the biggest glaring question of them all, the quarterback competition. Some new faces in Tempe, some strong returners. Obviously, we're not going to hear the name of a starter anytime soon. Probably later in August is when we'll hear that, but has any one man impressed you so far as we've gotten through spring ball?
Yeah, I think it's pretty clear that returning starter Trent Bourguet is right now head and shoulders above the competition. We figured in the beginning of spring practice it is going to be the battle between him and Drew Pine, the transfer from Notre Dame, and I think that kind of more or less shook out in the first week and a half of spring. But I really think that Bourguet right now has clearly separated himself not only from Pine but from the rest of the field. I would say that maybe the biggest surprise that could end up being not the starter but the backup quarterback is actually Ben Meredith, the redshirt freshman, somebody who I think myself and others probably thought would be the forgotten man in this battle. And Ben Meredith, maybe somewhat of a roller coaster spring, but I would say compared to any quarterback not named Trent Bourguet, he definitely impressed the most. Bourguet, if you recall, was not even taking 11 on 11 reps until the second week of spring. So I think it's really a testament to his experience and obviously his skill level that even not fully practicing until 3 practices in, he's able really to be head and shoulders above the competition. And really this is a clean slate for all of them, obviously. New head coach with a very offensive-minded head coach, new offensive coordinator. So you wondered how much a leg up a guy like Bourguet would have, but I think so far in the spring that definitely has proved itself. I think Jaden Rashada is really an investment for the future. If you want to look at it that way, I think in terms of just the stature and just what maybe you want to see a college quarterback look like, then Jaden Rashada definitely passes the eye test over there. But he's somebody that literally got to Tempe a week and a half before spring practice started. So I think it's really unrealistic to have him figure in even to the battle of the backup. But again, I feel that the future is very, very bright for a guy like Jaden Rashada. Jacob Conover really has disappointed, I think, somewhat in spring practice, but to his credit, I thought he had a great scrimmage today. Definitely one of his better sessions in the spring. But again, when you talk about the quarterback competition, I don't know if head coach Kenny Dillingham is going to announce Trent Bourguet at the end of spring, but I think if he did, I don't think it would be really any harsh decision, or I would say maybe too quick of a decision on Dillingham's part, because I've been very, 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 very impressed with Bourguet, and I wouldn't be surprised if it is going to be announced in August that Trent Bourguet is going to be the starting quarterback for the Sun Devils in 2023.
And looking at the rest of that offense, a lot of new faces in Tempe that are also very strong and some returners that are very good. Do you see any developing storylines on that front?
Well, I think at running back, you still have a battle of who's actually going to be the starting running back. The position right now is somewhat thin. They have to do some shuffling. Javen Jacobs, the wide receiver, is actually playing now. Running back is also the primary punt returner for the Sun Devils. But I think he's been showing some flashes. I've definitely been impressed with the 2 transfers, like Cam Scatabo from Sacramento State and DeCarlos Brooks from Cal. Scatabo, he came in with that, I guess, calling card as being that low center of gravity bowling ball running back, and not that he hasn't been that, but I think he has very deceptive speed. And even today in the scrimmage, when you give him a little open field to juke defenders and score, I mean, he's definitely capable of doing that. DeCarlos Brooks is really your classic third down running back. You get him off tackle into the open field, he can definitely gain some real estate over there. So I think running back is still maybe a position that still has to figure out some things over there. Would not be surprised if the May transfer portal is going to have ASU seeking out maybe another running back, but definitely been impressed with what I saw over there. When I look at the offensive line, again, really had to juggle some pieces, and this is definitely also another position where I fully expect the May transfer portal to be attacked, if you will, by ASU to try to find an offensive lineman, especially right guard, where Ben Coleman was supposed to be lining up. And Kenny Dillingham said that due to a lower leg injury, he might be out not only for spring, but also maybe for half of the regular season in the fall. So needless to say that Arizona State is going to try to find some help over there. But I think one guy, Leaf Fatno, the center transfer from UNLV, has been very, very good. I don't think there's been any drop-off whatsoever from a guy like Ben Scott last year to a guy like Fatno. And also I would say left tackle, Isaiah Glass, somebody who really showed a lot of promise in his first couple of years at Tempe, and right now I feel has a lock on the left tackle position. So been very, very impressed over there. When it comes to tight ends, it's not going to be a shocker. It's a Jalen Conyers show. He definitely showed us more than just a few flashes in 2022, and the way spring practice has been going for him, Nick, he's not going to slow down in 2023. He's easily going to be not only I think the best tight end in the Pac-12, but definitely one of the best in the country. To be as big as he is and to move as well as he does, always having a great nose for the end zone. It's been really, I think, a joy for the coaches and those in attendance to watch. But Messiah Swinson, well, if you recall, was thinking about leaving the team and then did come back. I think is also showing more and more of his abilities. So I think when it comes to like a duo of tight ends, I think Arizona State is definitely not only one of the best in the conference, but definitely one of the best in the league. And there's definitely not going to be any lip service over here as far as using the tight end in the passing game. That is something you are definitely going to see. When it comes to the wide receiver group, guys like Elijah Badger and Jair Sanders, who showed a lot in 2022, I think having a good spring. Xavier Gilroy, even coming from Idaho State, I think that's personally one wide receiver that I had a lot of high expectations for, and really has been fulfilling quite a bit of them. We talk about a combination of size and speed. I don't think it really can get better than a guy like Xavier Gilroy. So even if a guy like Badger is going to get a lot of attention probably from opposing defensive backs, just because of what he did in 2022, which was an excellent year. If you're going to have a Gilroy be one-on-one on any given down, that's something I think defenses are going to pay dearly for. I think the biggest surprise of spring practice has been Melkman Stovall from Colorado State, a transfer who only played 3 games in 2022, and you would think that it would be naturally him just to really knock out a lot of rust, maybe really only find his stride in the latter parts of spring practice. But he's somebody that I think among the wide receivers may have been the most consistent out of them all in the slot spot. So him and Gio Sanders are still engaging in an ongoing battle who's going to be the starter in the slot spot. Last but not least, I really have to mention Chad Johnson Jr., somebody that's really been buried in the depth chart in his first few years in Tempe. And right now I feel like he has a good hold on running with the second group more consistently. Did have a touchdown today. Great focus from a bounce ball off a defender. So Chad Johnson is somebody that really has impressed me, and I think is ready to come into his own in 2023. So overall, I just think the offense definitely has a lot of new faces that really have enhanced the quality and the depth at each and every position. But you really can't forget about the returning players: quarterback Trent Bourget, tight end Jalen Conyers, wide receivers Elijah Badger and Jair Sanders. They definitely have been impressive so far in the March and now April practices.
All right, so shifting over to the defense now. Prior to spring ball, we saw a lot of talent at the edge position, maybe some more question marks in those interior 4, but what have you seen from that group, Hoden?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. I mean, the edge, it's really, as I think defensive coordinator Brian Ward said, it really is a kid in the candy store, just having so many things to choose from, and all of them really just being equal in quality. Clayton Smith, the edge transfer from Oklahoma, Elijah O'Neal, a junior college transfer. Those are some guys that just really have stood out. But like I said, the interior of the defensive line definitely was a question mark. But I think Wisconsin transfer the Tristan Monday, Robbie Harrison, a returning player, true freshman, CJ Fight. Those are some guys that really just giving you, I think, a lot of hope that maybe this interior defensive line can actually be one of the stronger parts of this ASU defense, if not the entire Sun Devil squad. Again, if you talk about the transfer portal in May, yes, I do expect an interior defensive lineman to be targeted, in that avenue. But I think that maybe if the coaches did have somewhat low expectations coming into the spring from the three technique tackle, from the nose tackle, I think they've been more or less pleasantly surprised. So I think the defensive line is one unit that now that the leash is really coming off of this defensive line and really under the defense as a whole, yeah, I think you're seeing a lot of players that even last year were just really, I would say, hindered or handcuffed, if you will, by the defensive scheme that was ran in 2022. And now, just with a brand new playbook, a brand new coaches, those defensive linemen are just running loose out there and really have been impressive. And I think if you look just in general, Nick, as far as offense versus defense in the spring, I think the defense definitely has had the upper hand. And it all starts up front with the defensive line, who I think might be a pleasant surprise over here at the end of spring.
All right, well, let's talk about the guys behind them, the linebackers. Some big shoes to fill with Merlin Robertson gone, Kyle Soley gone. What have you seen from them? And on top of that, the defensive backs behind them.
Yeah, I think when you talk about the linebackers, I think you have two good starters in Will Schaefer and Trevion Brown coming from Washington State. And obviously, a guy like Brown has a huge advantage because he knows what Brian Ward, the defensive coordinator, wants to run, because Brian Ward came from Washington State. And if that's not enough, his position coach, A.J. Cooper, also came from Washington State. So a guy like Brown obviously assimilates very quickly. But a guy like Will Schaefer, even though he's starting out with a clean slate in terms of coaches, in terms of scheme, I think definitely has been impressive. Really, the depth behind them, that's what's going to be somewhat in question. Again, if you're looking at the May transfer portal, what ASU is going to target, I think enhancing depth at linebacker is definitely going to be one of those positions. I've been really impressed with the defensive backfield, and it's kind of a contrast between the safeties, which right now you just have a brand new starting group of Shamari Simmons, Austin Peay transfer, Xavier Alford from USC. Really just anchoring. I think those two starting safety positions have been really impressive, and I think just playing in a scheme that really allows their skill level to shine quite a bit. You talk about forgotten man on both sides of the ball. Let's talk about R.J. Reagan, who right now is running first nickelback or slot safety, if you want to look at it in those terms. I think I've been really impressive. Again, now that they're playing 5 defensive backs, I think that's something that maybe can highlight a guy like R.J. Reagan. Let's not forget about Willie Hartz, who I'm sure some of the fans would remember. In 2019, he was one of the best players on the ASU defense. And by the way, it's no coincidence that scheme back then also featured 5 defensive backs. So I think Willie Hartz and R.J. Reagan are going to have one hell of a battle between them for that starting nickelback position. When it comes to the cornerbacks, you have Ro Torrens, who I thought had a great 2022, and I think really was able to build that foundation into 2023. And then there's going to be quite a battle, maybe somewhat under the radar, who's going to be the other cornerback that's going to start opposite him. Mason Williams, Ed Woods, Isaiah Johnson. There's definitely some really good quality players to choose from, all of them returning players. So college experience is really not going to be an issue over here. So overall, I think I've been really impressed with this defensive backfield, who has to face a much more explosive offense than they ever did in 2022, and they are definitely holding their own. And just going back to one of my earlier points, when you look about this defense just being in constant attack mode, I think it just really fits, hand to a glove with some of the just God-given talents that a lot of players on this side of the ball have, especially I think on the defensive line and the defensive backfield. So if you're an ASU fan, you definitely have to be really excited by how much progress I feel that this defense made. And again, you do have a lot of returning players, maybe assuming familiar roles. But just when it comes to new coaching staff and a new scheme, I think they've absolutely have done wonders for this group.
Well, speaking of that new coaching staff, Kenny Dillingham and the energy he's brought to Tempe, I mean, everyone is talking about it. We've seen basketball hoops at practice. There was a dance battle today. We've seen coaches kicking field goals. Like, it's just a completely new vibe, Hode.
Yeah, and I think Kenny Dillingham is just one guy that's really delivering on his mantra that nobody's going to work harder and have more fun than us. And I think that we saw that in all the social media posts during the winter workouts. And there's just been just an absolute seamless transition into spring practice. This is a program that needed a shot in the arm. And not only getting a guy like Kenny Dillingham, but also what Kenny Dillingham's philosophy is really all about. Ultimately, this is college football. It's not a business, and I know it's really easy to look at it as a business in the crazy world of NIL. But if you don't have that level of energy and enthusiasm, that obviously has to start with the head coach and just trickle down from there, you're really not going to be successful. So I think it's a definite approach that's appreciated by the returning players and the new players, the transfers, true freshmen, the junior college transfers. That they just know that whatever they were told during the recruiting process, this is what's happening right now on the field. And I loved one of the Kenny Dillingham sayings early after he was hired. He said, look, I love the transfer portal because that's when, as a coach, you have nowhere to run, nowhere to hide, but just tell the truth. So I think that the recruiting pitch that Kenny Dillingham has had for a slew of newcomers, I mean, they're pretty much approaching 50, probably will be 50 after the May transfer portal. I think that he's absolutely delivering on each and every promise that he had to the players, and I think just to the Sun Devil Nation in general. I mean, anytime you watch the fine practice footage this guy does produce for you each and every week, you can see how much fun, how much enthusiasm, how much energy this team has. I'm not saying that's a recipe to win 10 games, a recipe to make the college playoffs. But for a program that needed a culture change, I think Ken Dillingham is absolutely the right man at the right time. And again, I think he really absolutely delivered on everything he promised, everything he's spoken from that late November introductory press conference all throughout, anything that he said to the media since then. So I feel that this shot in the arm to the program is something that's really going to produce a lot of results. Again, there's a lot of great talent that has been brought in, that really has assimilated quite quickly. Some positions are really just upgraded overnight just because of the quality and the quantity of players that this Arizona State coaching staff has brought. So I know that spring is the time of year, Nick, that everybody's optimistic about their team. Everybody's still undefeated. But, you just look at this team and how it's really evolving, how it's really developing. I think there's definitely a lot to be excited. And, again, that enthusiasm and excitement that Kenny Dillingham has brought has definitely resonated, I think, throughout the team, and I think also throughout the Sun Devil fan base.
Alrighty, Hode. Well, thank you so much for your insight, and as always, for continuous coverage of spring ball. Keep it locked in at DevilsDigest.com. Also, drop a follow at Devils Digest on Twitter. For Hode Urbino, I'm Nick Borgia. We thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time.